We have Kyle. Let's go to our man. I love Kyle Neubeck. He does such a great job covering the Sixers for all PHLY. Dude, this Bridges news last night, it was a bat in the back of the head.
Well, I'll say this. I feel like I need to talk you guys off the ledge a little bit. You guys are talking about Mikal Bridges like they traded for Michael Jordan up in New York. Like, let's all take a step back from the ledge. Let's calm down. They are locked into this team now for the foreseeable future. Whether that team is good enough to win a title,
well, correct me if I'm wrong.
We'll wait and see.
They can still sign and trade OG.
Yes, they're going to probably lose.
There was the talk about
probably lose Hartenstein will be the big
for Paul
consequence
George
of this. Yeah. So look, I'm not sitting here. I do think if you're talking about the Sixers angle on this, I think this is a move the Knicks could afford to make that the Sixers simply couldn't. And that the problem is less this trade and more what has led up to this trade, because the Knicks already have a lot of their role players in place, right? They have the Nova guys. They have.
Yeah, I like Bridges more than you do. Let's rewind a little bit, because I like Bridges more than you do, and we already know about. And I'm a big believer in upside and Villanova upside players. Like nobody thought Brunson would evolve and become the player he did. He's a wing that could play defense, that could shoot the ball. He's improved his 3-point shot. He can attack the basket. He's got great court vision, so he sees the floor well. I love Bridges. Now, not because of the obvious, because he's Homer and Devon, the whole thing. I think he's a terrific ball player. I'm not telling you he's Michael Jordan, but when you add him to that mix, that Knicks team is formidable, and they're going to get better.
I 100% agree, but my point is, if you're mad about it as a Sixers fan, be mad that they have already been built better up to this point.
Yeah, that's why we're mad
that they can make this trade. It's not that they lost out on Mikal Bridges, because if you're the Sixers, if you compare, if the Sixers trade 5 firsts for Mikal Bridges, which is basically everything they have to trade, they still have to fill out the entire roster. They have no team. They have, they have 3 guys under contract.
That's not my issue. The issue is everything you said prior to. It's leading up to it, man. Yes. It's symbolic, Kyle. The fact is they made a colossal blunder when they traded Bridges in the first place. And now he comes home.
We 100% agree on.
He comes home
absolutely
to their biggest rival, other than the Celtics. And he makes them head and shoulders above them. And that's the issue. It's not that, would I like to go all in, use all my assets for Mikal? That's not it. I would do that for marketing, I'll tell you that right now. But the issue is Knicks are able to do that. It's symbolic in that Bridges was a wing that they needed. They haven't had a freaking wing. Kyle, they're all they are is breasts and thighs. No wings.
Well, so you and I are mostly on the same page then, right? It's part of why I advocated for more consideration of a deadline move, right? Because I was worried about this specific scenario where you get to the summer, a lot of these options are falling off the board. And then you look around and you say, well, is our best path kicking the can down the road again, waiting for another star to fall out of this? And that's what I mean, Anthony, because look, if you look at all the options, let's say this same trade is on the table for the Sixers, and I don't know that that's the case. It seems like the Knicks and Nets were pretty locked in on this. But let's say your options were trading 5 firsts for Mikal Bridges, trading multiple firsts for 35-year-old Jimmy Butler, trading for Paul George, who looks like at this point, it looks like more likely he's going to opt in and force a trade somewhere or maybe stay in LA. Trade multiple firsts for Brandon Ingram. Like, none of these options are something that you and I wake up, get out of bed in the morning and are like, hell yeah, that's the one we're doing. We're really excited about it. And so the problem is that they haven't built a more complete team up to this point, so that when you want to push these chips in, when you want to get that final piece, then you can say,
Yeah,
we already got the rest
agree with
taken
that.
care of.
Let me ask you a question. Was Siakam ever on the table, or could they have ever landed him? Because he was the they could never have gotten him.
Well, it's not so much that they could never have gotten him. It's that I don't think the Nurse Siakam relationship is on good terms. So that was why
that
they
was
were
my question
in
at the deadline before he goes to Indiana. Like, well, how come you don't make a play for him? Because I thought he was a perfect fit next to Embiid and Maxey.
Yeah. So the reason that OG they pursued him certainly prior to the trade deadline. The reason they pursued him and they didn't pursue Siakam, I believe, is because they felt the cost was more reasonable. 2, I don't think they felt great about where the Siakam Nurse relationship was, and that stuff's been out there for a long time.
I know.
So I think that's the main problem. To your point, look, it's maybe
real,
if you want to try to do the pipe dream thing here, Anthony, I know that the word on the street was that the Nets were trying to build around Bridges, like get another guy, and they moved him. So I know you're big on the marketing train, and everything I've heard, everything I know that you've heard is that they're not moving him, they want to extend him, etc. I don't know. Maybe you can make the moon and the stars offer and try to get in the mix for him, because I do think he fits great. But again, that still leaves you with that same problem, which is, okay, you have marketing.
Yeah.
What do you, maybe you can get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and he helps you. Maybe you can get some good bench pieces, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And that is why that's the problem I've had with the last, let's say, year and a half of team building. It's that they've left so much to this offseason. And you're not in a position with Joel Embiid at 30, 31 years old to just say, hey, we're going to take another sabbatical year and just wait for something to happen. You cannot afford to do that.
No, that can that you want to kick down the road is filled with soup, and it'll break your toe. All right? Like, you can't kick anymore. You're done. Like, that's my biggest problem. You're at the point where, like, I've never considered this, and I hate talking about it. And you probably know where I'm going to go. I don't want to do this. But you're almost leaving me in a bad spot where I got to at least entertain the thought of it, which is the Embiid piece. Like, my whole thing has always been to, build around Joel and take another shot. Exhaust Joel until, like, I wanted Joel's career to end here, right? Like, let's see if they could do it. But now when you start to look at the landscape, you go, well, am I better off taking a knee and moving him now? Like, I'm actually entertaining that, something I'm completely against.
Well, the answer is still no. But, yeah, look, here's the thing. There might reach a point, let's say they strike out this offseason, which is looking more and more like a reasonable possibility. How long before he gets mad? Like, how long before that's a real consideration. And here's the other thing. I wrote about this last night.
That was my next point, which is when Joe goes, yo, guys, you've effed this up 7 ways from Sunday, right? It started with Tobias and Jimmy, right? And it's just continued. There's been one mistake after another. At some point, Embiid goes, I'm tired of being the pincushion, all right? Everybody's blaming me when you guys failed to put a good enough team around me to flourish.
Well, and Anthony, I'll bring up another name. He is not as ornery as Joel is. Think about Tyrese Maxey's perspective on the last year, right? You go to him last summer and you say, hey, look, we're not giving you this extension. The whole reason that you're going to have to, take on added risk this year, maybe you get injured, maybe something happens where you're going to lose a lot of long-term money, is because the cavalry is coming next offseason. We're loading up. We need you to do this for us, and it will be paid back in the form of a better team. And then you come away from this offseason with like, hey, we're going to wait again. Like, Maxey's a great kid, and I don't think he's someone who would, cause a fuss. It's his first contract after his rookie deal, all that. He is represented by Rich Paul, who is going to notice something like this, is going to say, hey, what the fuck with my client? Sorry, excuse my French, everybody. But like, that's the sort of message he's going to to give to
So my
Daryl
kid
Morey.
watches
It's
the
like,
show.
you sold me and my client this bill of goods and said, this is why we're doing it. This is why he has to wait, when no ascending young player of his caliber generally has to wait to sign this type of extension. And then you're telling me, all right, we're going to sign a bunch of balloon deals on short-term free agents so you guys can maybe make a trade in the future. That's not going to be helpful in terms of that relationship, I would imagine.
Oh my God. Yeah. Thanks for making my day even better. I gotta worry. The one person I thought I didn't have to worry about, but listen, you're right. When you read the tea leaves, you're right. So at what point do you make the judgment? Because if you wait another year, like, oh God, I can't believe I'm even saying this. Because you and I always saw lockstep. I'm not trading Embiid. I'm not trading Embiid. If there is no cavalry coming for the next year, maybe two, now you're talking about Joel. 2 more years on Joel. There's
so much pressure to get this right now, because
at that point,
yeah, we all know with the health situation with Joel, he's a constant risk to be out of the lineup. If you continue to build around him, and I 100% believe they're going to ride him till the wheels fall off. But if you want to build around him, you have to try to do it before his body really gives out, right? Like, he has at least been able to play and be on the floor in the playoffs. Imagine a scenario in a few years from now, where he's not able to. And then it's just, it's Maxey and whoever we have left. So there is real urgency that needs to be shown. We've been saying on our Sixers show for months, like, they need to get this right. They need to show like the proper urgency for this moment. And so, look, the offseason really hasn't started for them yet, right? We will judge it when it's all said and done. I don't want people panicking right now because other teams have made moves. They're not the only team that can. I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen.
He just tells us Maxey's going to want to get traded. Don't panic. Don't panic, everybody.
How do you not panic at this point? Like, I can't tell people not to panic. I'm panicked. I mean, honestly, you look at it, and when you look at the other options, like, all right, Brandon Ingram. I don't hate Brandon Ingram, all right? I don't hate that idea. But the issue is you're looking up at Boston and New York, and you're going, man, Brandon Ingram better flourish to have a prayer, right? Because you're looking up at two really formidable teams. And that's not mentioning anybody else that are making improvements.
Well, I think really the problem here, we're focused on the Knicks because they made the most immediate move. The problem is that Boston is so much better than the rest of the conference.
Oh, that's why I said
again, they did that by making these moves over time, right? Like, hey, trade for Derek White at this deadline. Last offseason, they make the smart Porzingis move. And then they make the holiday trade. Like, this is not something that they went into one offseason, they completely flipped the team and just had Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in place. Like, this has been a years long and across multiple executives, right? Like, Danny Ainge is running the team, makes these important picks, important trades with the Sixers. He leaves, and Brad Stevens goes from coach to the front office, and he continues to make great moves. Like, they've been so much better run than not just the Sixers, but most of the NBA during this period.
Yeah.
It stings. It's still the Sixers can never even when the Sixers have been successful, they're always like the little brother to the Celtics who win 4 titles while they're winning 1. So it's,
you're telling me that I lived through that. All right. You didn't have to see them as I'm a kid and they're up 3-1 on Boston. And Moses is about to take out the Lakers on the Western Conference. The title is ours. And they blew a 3-1 lead, dude. And then even after they win, they still have the best team. But it's not even close. They have the best team in the NBA. And they lose to the freaking Nets in the first round. And you know what Doc said on the Sunday they lost that game? Mail in the stats. That it was a foregone conclusion. It was a best-of-5 series. The game was at the Spectrum, and Dr. J says mail in the stats, and they freaking lose. All right? This is the pick. Pat Williams has them, like, you want to talk about coffers being full. We were just talking about to start the show. Kyle, they're one of the best teams in the league in 84, and they have Cleveland's first-round pick. Like, they were this close to getting Michael Jordan, right? And they wound up getting Charles. Like, and they blew it. They blew it. They blew it. They traded for a one-legged, bone-on-bone Jeff Rulin and a guy with iritis in Cliff Robinson. All right? Instead of doing the obvious, this franchise has put me through hell, Kyle. Now let's go back into the process days where you made your bones. And that offseason, after the Colangelo calamity, right? Forget about even the Markel Fultz thing and everything else. It's the offseason that he's doing Twitter eggs. He and is out, and there's the organization's rudderless, and it's run by, partial owners and, Brett Brown, and it's a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about the obvious moves, they had the perfect fitting wing who we're talking about today, Mikal Bridges.
That's why we're upset. That's why I'm upset.
And they traded him away.
It's symbolic, Kyle. That's what I'm talking about. It's symbolic. And how do you not read, oh, God, dude. And you lived it. You covered it. And I remember Brett talking about Kawhi Leonard with Zaire Smith. Are you freaking out of your mind? And I love Brett. One of the nicest guys in the world, right? I was close. I was I was doing this whole process book. I saw you on the road, the whole thing. And I'm going, Kawhi Leonard, this guy, Bridges is the perfect fit with them. Perfect fit. And the Villanova player is NBA type ready. They're well coached. They're developed, right? They're developed. They're going to have a seal. They're going to have an upside. And they never saw the upside. They just thought Bridges was just a 3-and-D player, like Timothy Luau Cabarro. Come on, man. Where's your basketball IQ?
Our guy Devon Givens would have set them straight if he had the opportunity. Unfortunately, we are where we are today.
Jay Wright would have set them straight.
That's right. Well, I don't think I did a good job talking you off the ledge. It seems like you're madder now than when I came on.
Yeah, you excited me even more. And then you throw in the Maxey thing. Because truthfully, let's end on positive stuff. All right. Give me the best case scenario.
Look, I know I don't think either one of us are huge Brandon Ingram fans, right? Or at least I like him, but I don't love him.
Right.
I think because of that, though, and that sentiment is true around the league, I think he's gettable for a reasonable price. And so I think if you're the Sixers, you say, we take a swing on Brandon Ingram. We get a good free agent in a guy like Caldwell Pope. We can bring back a couple guys, Oubre, Batum, Lowry, on deals that are not long-term deals. They're just, you're keeping some continuity. And you say, Maxey's going to take another leap. We're going to do something. Maybe you get a backup center like Andre Drummond, can eat a lot of minutes, protect Joel in the regular season, keep him in his, case of glass that you have to keep him in order to get him.
Andre Drummond. Oh, wow.
Listen, I'm just saying, Anthony, I can't sit here and be like, well, they should just trade 5 first-round picks for marketing.
No, I agree with you. No, you're you're intellectual. I completely I'm with you. This is reality what you're supplying, and I appreciate that. And that I agree with you is probably the best case scenario, unless there's somebody out there that is disgruntled, unhappy, whatever it is that we don't know about.
Yeah, I just think look, Ingram is not. He's not what Jimmy Butler was when he came here, right? He's not that level of player. He's got more warts, but he's better than I think people think after a terrible end to last season. And as we've seen in some of these teams that have, made deep runs, part of what you need to do is look at a guy who has underperformed in other situations and say, in this spot as our third guy with his skills, he can go to the next level and we can go to the next level. Like Dallas buys low on Kyrie Irving, they go to the finals. The Celtics say, hey, we'll pay a premium to get someone like Derek White. That's a guy who threatened to make an all-star team this year. And they trade for Porzingis, who he failed as like one of the lead guys elsewhere. He then becomes one of the best, fourth, fifth options in the league, opens things up, and they play a different way. So you can't look at it as like Paul George. Oh, Paul George failed here, or Brandon Ingram failed here, or Jimmy Butler hasn't quite gotten there in Miami. You have to say, what does he do for this team? What can he do with our coaching staff, using Joel Embiid and Maxey's attention to get better shots, to play 4-on-3s, to not have to be the guy who carries the load every single night. And that's why, to your point about Bridges, it's why Bridges would have made sense here, because he doesn't have to be the number one guy. Like in Brooklyn, he would have made sense. But there are other guys out there. It is on them to prove to you, to prove to the fans, to prove to us that they can identify and acquire that guy. But I'll end it where I wanted to start it. All hope is not lost, but they do have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I love you, brother. You're my man.
It's an honor to be your man, cuz. So I love that.
Thanks, buddy. We'll be watching later. Kyle Neubeck, all PHLY Sixers, who is
just a ray of sunshine. Not only do they stink right now, we're going to lose Maxey.
So get ready for leg day, too, because leg day's coming up.
We all silly like the mayor.